Ladies and gentlemen, fellow adventurers, welcome to this Tric Trac TV special on the 7th Continent Kickstarter. Now, a while ago, the Serious Pulp guys came in and we filmed a special video which you'll find somewhere on this page, all about the rules for the 7th Continent. However, it was kind of long, and what we thought we'd do is break it down a little bit into a very short video to show you the base mechanics and how you can jump right in and of course make an informed decision on this Kickstarter. So what I'm going to do is run you through 80% of the mechanics, which are fairly simple. The most important things you need to know to set up, get playing, and of course save the game so you can come back and finish it later. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I will very quickly mention, however, before we get into it, that this is a prototype. What you guys are going to receive will be a lot nicer, so do bear with me. Let's get into it. First of all, you need a character. We're going to take Ferdinand, because we've already talked a fair amount about him in certain articles. Now, a character comes with a special character card. This shows their special ability, a recap of the move ability, and of course, a little bit of flavor text on the back so you know who you're dealing with. Then we have 5 special idea cards. Now these get mixed into your action deck. So take up your action deck and then just slide them in there. Now I'm not going to do this too precisely just for the sake of time, but you guys should mix this up a lot better. Up. Take your character card and just put it somewhere where you can get to it easily. Then you need a curse, the antagonist. We're going to take the Voracious Goddess. Once again, it's the curse we've talked about the most without giving too much away, I hope. So, you have one main curse card, which gives you a little bit of idea of what you're dealing with. And then you have 4 generic curse cards. Now, no matter how many players you're playing with, there's always 5 curse cards in the deck. So if there's 2 of you, take out one of the generic cards, or don't if you want to play with multiple curses, or you could play with one between 2 people. It's up to you. Just always make sure there's 5 in the deck. So, just like the idea cards, you take these 5, and in they go. Up. There it is. And we're done. Then, the last part of the curse is this. It's your journal entry. So there's a little bit of flavor text like the character so you know what you're dealing with. And this, however, is quite important. These are clues on how you can purge this curse. You may find others as you go along. Now, in the top left-hand corner of this box, or card rather, is a little book symbol. This means it's the journal entry. So take up your shoulder bag. Now the shoulder bag indicates how many ideas and inventory cards you can have per player. So I'm playing on my own for the sake of this demo, so I can have 4 idea cards and 4 inventory cards. If there was 2 of us, it'd be 3 and 3, 3 it'd be 2 and 3, etc., etc. Also, the little book symbol means that this is where your journal is kept. The journal has no maximum size, so you can just put whatever you want in there as long as it has this little symbol. So put your little journal entry in there, and just like the character card, leave it somewhere where you can get to it easily. Last thing you need to do is take card number 1. That's where the adventure always starts. Put that down in the middle of the table and you are ready to go. So what you'd normally do when you want to flip a card over is you'd read the flavor text. We'll move on. So we flip a terrain card over and this is what we get. This is the place where we wake up, where we realize we're on the 7th continent, or we're somewhere we don't quite know yet, and that things aren't exactly what they seem. So what does a terrain card break down into? First of all, these little golden arrows. Now these are exploration arrows. It means you can explore the continent from these areas. This is an exploration game, so it had to happen. And the first thing you do whenever you place down a terrain card is you check for these arrows, and if there are some, you put these random encounter cards into play adjacent to each arrow. But we'll do that afterwards once I put it back into the center of the table. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have a little bit more info about this piece of terrain. The purple rocks means it's a kind of rock area. The number 1 means that it's chapter 1. This is actually a card from the introduction part of the game. The bottom left little box here, the 1 and the 0, that's a movement action recap. We'll get to that when we talk about actions. And then the stone symbol, that's a resource. Once again, we will come back to that. This is the lifeblood of the game. These are actions. These little white boxes with a black outline, and the symbol inside indicate they are an action that you can perform. This little symbol means explore. It's placed over these rocky outcrops here, so obviously it means we can go explore the outcrops. Now, one thing I will say very quickly is that look at your cards. There is a lot more information on their cards than you think. Like I said, That allows us to go and explore a rocky outcrop. However, if it was in front of a cave, it would be to explore a cave, and it gives you an idea of the cards that you're going to be able to draw next. Obviously, if that action is over lava, you might want to think twice about going to explore over lava without the proper equipment or preparation, etc., etc. So, we'll put this back into the middle of the board. We'll place our 2 random encounters on each side. And, of course, because that's where we start, our little counter to let us know where we are. So let's start with actions. Actions are 75–80% of the game mechanics. It's simple, it's always the same thing. The blue diamond is the amount of cards you must draw from your action deck. Here it says 1+, so to complete this action, the first thing I must do is draw at least 1 card, though I may draw more. So I'll draw 1, and then in the second number is a golden star. It says 0, that's the amount of successes I need to complete this action. Now, I'm just going to explore somewhere to have a look. It's not particularly difficult nor strenuous, hence the 1+0. So I draw 1 card, very little energy required, and 0, no successes needed because it's fairly simple. So I'll flip this card over anyway. Now, I get the club card. Now, everything that's on the right of this card we'll ignore for the moment, and I'll explain it later. When you're resolving an action, this is what counts. So, every star you have here is a success. I have 1 full star, which is 1 full success, and then I have a half star. Now, if I had another card which had the other side of that star, let's see if I can find an example, there we go, and you can match them together like so, not without, you can't flip the cards around, they have to stay in the same order like that. That counts as a second success. But I don't need it, and that was purely for an example, so we'll put that back. The lucky number 7 is specific to certain equipment cards which can give you big bonuses if you use them and then draw cards like this during that. So, as we can see, I've drawn 1 card, didn't need any successes even though I got some, therefore the action is a success. Whenever you perform an action and draw a card in the 7th continent, you can always keep one of the cards you draw. So the club could become useful, I'll keep that in hand. So that goes into my hand of idea cards. Now, if we look back at this action again, in the white box underneath, whenever an action has a white box, that is what happens if you succeed. That is what you do. So in here, we have a 005 in a little green rectangle. That means that if I succeed, I must go and draw the green 05 card. Now, green cards are game cards. So you take your game deck and you draw the 05 cards. And I say these 05 cards because there are multiples of them. You may sometimes be called on to draw cards which have multiple variants. Now this one is particularly special because it has a normal card and a gold card. Now the gold card is part of how the game remembers your actions or what you've done, and also to reward you for certain actions. Now, the basic rule is you can never draw a gold card unless the game specifically tells you, or there are no more green cards. So I must take this green card. If both of them were green, I could choose which one and it would be a random event. Perhaps I'd walked up the hill and maybe I had slipped on some rocks or I hadn't, etc., etc. So this 05 golden card goes back into the game deck. Up, there it is. So I'll flip this one over and it shows me that I've discovered a pretty steep hill, as indicated by the terrain card that we saw, which I should be able to get an interesting view if I climb up there. So, once again, the game is offering me an action with a certain level of difficulty, a reward. However, this time I've got some consequences should I fail it. So, we'll see what happens. Let's try and climb up there. The action is a 1+ and 2. It's also a climbing action. Now, there are lots and lots of action symbols in the game. You don't need to learn them off by heart. All you need to do is keep an eye out for the symbol. If sometime you have an inventory card which shares the same symbol, it means you can sometimes use it to get a bonus for that action. Now, I don't have an inventory card, so I can't, so moving on. 1+ and 2 successes. So I'm going to play it safe. You must always decide the amount of cards you're going to draw before you start drawing. I'm going to draw 3 cards to be safe. So I draw no successes, or rather half success if I get the star right, which I do because one's got a 1 and a half and they fit together. So I've got 2 successes. So that, either way, the action is a success. However, I'm still going to draw my 3rd card because I said I would. That is, why am I drawing that from that deck? Haha. There we go. So I get 2.5 technically successes if I'd have had another star to complete. In either case, I only needed 2 to succeed, as indicated by the little star, so it's a success. In this case, it's telling me to discard this green card and to draw the golden card. Now, before we go anywhere, do bear note that there is a difference between discard and ban. The game will sometimes ask you to ban cards. Now, banned cards quit the game forever. Well, forever. I say for as long as you are playing this run through. If, for example, you pull a lever, the game may ask you to ban one card, which is what would happen if you hadn't have pulled the lever, and then that way you will only draw the card which would happen if you did pull the lever, for example. However, this card is discarded, so it could come back into play in a later gaming session. So, these 3 cards, I'll keep one. I'm going to keep this special action card. These other 2 go into my discard pile. And of course, this, sorry, I did check it. Yep, it just asked me to draw the golden card, number 5. So we go back, we get the aforementioned golden card. It has some flavor text. You read through it, flip it over. Now, basically, it says that because I've climbed this hill, I've got a much better view of my surroundings, and I've managed to spot an easier way out. Now, in the bottom right, we can see that from now on, whenever I use the movement action, when in the area that this card is attached to, you always put the card it's attached to as indicated by this little golden arrow here, I get -1 to movement. Well, I have to draw 1 less card, which means movement is easier. Also, it tells me to discard the terrain card that I'm currently on, so it means this one here, and to draw and replace it with card number 29. So, go get card number 29. There it is. Take that out. Discard this one. Once again, it can come back in later gaming sessions. And then put this one back into play. Now, I'll show it very quickly up close. Oh, sorry, no, I need to keep that up. Now, nothing much has changed except this. So obviously, I've got a much better view of the area around this map tile, which means that, as we can see, there's some sulfur jets down here. And because I've been up high and I've looked down and I've seen there's a passage through them, so I can actually explore the south of this terrain card. So we replace it, and because it's got an exploration arrow, we put this random event card in. Now, that's a basic action. So how do you explore? How do you go further into the continent? Once again, it's the same actions. Whenever you want to move to a different area, before you can reveal that card, you have to resolve the random encounter. So let's say I'm going to go south. Just explored it, why not? So, to resolve a random event card, you have to execute the action that's on it. Now this indicates an explore action, 0 + 0, which means it's a free action to turn it over and see what it is. So, we'll do just that. Up, lunch. Now, this is quite interesting. This is a special type of action, not because of the icon, because of the red padlock. Now, the red padlock indicates actions that are very tricky, very difficult. In the 7th continent, you can draw as many cards as you like for most actions from your deck in an attempt to use your energy reserves to make it easier. Padlock actions, it's so tricky, or just incredibly tricky, that you can't really count on just putting more energy. You just have to have the right equipment or get lucky first time around. In this case, I've seen a seagull hopping along. If I get lucky, it could be an easy lunch. So, it tells me I must draw 1 card and get 2 successes. Now, there are cards with 2 successes on there, but they're rare. Do we get it? Let's find out. I don't. I only get 1 success from this Twigs card. So, as we can see in the consequence, the seagull flies away immediately and banish this card. So this card may never come back into play in this gaming session, in future gaming sessions, whenever, unless, of course, you reset the game and start everything again. So, once again, that goes into my discard pile. And now that that random encounter card is no longer there, I can place the map card. So it's card 04, as indicated. So I take card 04. Once again, a little bit of flavor text. You flip it over. And there's a whole host of actions. There's another exploration I can do. So I take another random event and place that there. And there you go. That's how you discover new areas. Now, how do you move to it? Now, the rules for movement are actually on your character card. So, up, as we can see here, it's just a quick recap, but movement is incredibly simple. Movement is an action, and it costs to perform this aforementioned number that we talked about earlier on. So, if I wanted to move to this zone from any zone in the game, it would cost me I'd have to draw minimum 2 cards and get 0 successes. Now, there are things that stop you from teleporting from one side of the board to the other. You can go and read up on some of the articles that are also on this page to learn more about that. However, we assume that you're an explorer, you've got some pretty good explorer senses, you can find your way back to places you've been a lot easier. So as long as you've explored somewhere, you can more teleport there without having to pay the cost of every map tile you come across. So, I wanted to move, I would have to draw 2 cards. However, because of the tile I'm on, I got -1 from the action I explored earlier on, so I'd only have to draw 1. So, I draw 1, it's a curse card, that counts as no successes, just goes into my discard pile. Didn't need any successes anyway, so we're good. Up, and now we've moved. And that is movement. That is the action system, that is the basis of the game. Now, a couple of actions, as we said, have consequences. If I go back to this card earlier, up, there we are. If I'd have failed this action, I would have fallen down the hill and injured myself. Now, this calls me to take a state card. Now, state cards represent the different effects that can befall your character, injuries, fatigue, paranoia, loads of things like that. I believe there's 7 in the Kickstarter, maybe more as we go along depending on how successful it is. The first state card you get does nothing. The second one you get, however, things start to get a little bit difficult. As soon as you are called upon to take your second state card, you must discard a card from your action pile for each state card you have. So, first one, nothing. Second one, I have 2 cards, so I discard 2 cards from my action pile. Now, as I keep gaining more and more different cards, I will have to discard more cards each time this effect is triggered. You cannot have multiple times the same state card. However, being asked to take that card does trigger the discard effect. So if I had injured and tired and I became injured again, I wouldn't actually take this card, but I would still have to discard the 2 cards from the state cards I already had. Hopefully you stayed with me for that one. So, up. State cards generally have to be dealt with as soon as you can. If you let them rack up, they can really eat you into your action deck, and that's not good. As we saw from the 2 cards there, some of them offer you an action to get rid of them. Some of them is just a certain circumstance, like if you're cold and you have access to fire, you heat yourself up, state card goes away. Other ones, no clue whatsoever. It's up to you to figure it out. Hopefully you will, maybe you won't, we'll see. Now, talking about the action deck, this is the most important thing in the game. It is your energy, it's your ideas, it's your main resource for all the actions. As you are discarding cards, as actions go along, this is going to decrease and decrease and decrease until there's nothing left. Now, this is a bad situation. You want to try and never run out of action cards, because when you do, you mix this deck up, put it back in the discard pile slot, and now whenever you should draw a card, you must draw it from this pile. However, you can keep drawing from this pile, but as soon as you reach a curse card, and hopefully I will reach a curse card, there it is, that's game over. If you're drawing from your discard pile and you draw a curse card, you are dead, exhaustion, the curse, the continent itself has gotten the better of you, and you must go back to the last checkpoint or to start the game whenever it was that the game last told you could save at. Now, these kind of points will turn up fairly frequently, generally before or after big moments. Think like a video game and you get the gist of it. Now, what can you do to keep this action pile healthy? Well, food, basically. Keep your resources up, keep your energy up. Certain other cards, such as maybe you'll be able to meditate, that will get you a little bit of mental fortitude back and that may give you cards back. However, what you really need to do is make sure you have a good supply of food during the game. Now, the seagull, for example, as I mentioned earlier, if I'd have gotten him, it would have allowed me to draw a food card. Now, food cards are exactly that. They are a free action. They're still an action, though, but it's a 001. And they say, randomly take X amount of cards from your discard pile and put them back into your action pile. Once again, that allows you to restock your action pile, keep it nice and healthy. However, if you have access to the fire resource, which generally comes from campfires, which some actions may allow you to place down. Sometimes if you're in a very hot area, you might have it, you never know. If you can cook food, it gives you more cards back. So instead of having 3, example, for meat, you get 6 back. So it's always good to try and put down a campfire if you're going to eat food. Also, what you could do to keep your action pile healthy is to try and come properly equipped. Now, at the beginning of the game, I drew the club card. So let's go back and have another look at this card. So this time we're going to look at the right-hand side of the card. Now, the club is a craftable item, as indicated by this little symbol here. It's a 3+0 action to make it. However, these little symbols, wood, stone, and cord, with the -1s underneath, means that if I have access to these resources, it becomes easier to make that item. So if we look back at the map cards, both the cards that I've explored actually have the little stone symbol indicated on them. So, as we can see from the club card, if I have access to the stone resource, it's -1 to make it. So it goes from 3+ to 2+. So I take 2 action cards, don't need any successes to make them. I'll keep one of them. One of them was a curse, so that goes straight into the action deck discard. And the other one I'll keep in my hand as an idea. Hup. Now, that means I've made the item. I've succeeded. I take 1 dice, and I turn it to the face shown in the top right-hand corner. This is the item's durability. Whenever I use the item to gain the bonus indicated at the bottom, so for the club, for example, I can get 3 automatic successes whenever I fight, or if I'm feeling particularly macho, whenever I try to open something that's locked. You know, you do with what you can. I decrease this dice by 1, and when it reaches 0, the item is broken, you put it into the discard pile. Simple as that. Hup. The other kind of idea card you may have in hand is literally idea cards. Now this is a special one, as indicated by my character's face, printed in the corner. When a group draws this card, if there's multiple players, and you draw one of these cards, you can only keep it if it's your character's face. If it has another character's face, you can't keep it. If it has no character's face, of course you can keep it. So this one, for example, it tells me that as long as I have this effect in my hand, I get these bonuses to either navigation or campfires. Simple as that. Other ones may give you direct bonuses for simple actions. There's a whole variety of things contained within the deck. I won't spoil anything for you. I'll let you discover that one for yourselves. And that is basically 80% of the Seventh Continent games mechanics. There are a couple more complicated things, but you'll discover that as you go along, and it shouldn't be necessary for you guys to make an informed decision about these games mechanics. What we will finish with, however, is one of the things we have waxed lyrical about, which is the save system. Now, this is a 1,000-minute game. It's a very long game, but it's a pretty epic saga to play through. However, nobody's going to sit down for 1,000 minutes to play this game. If you do, kudos to you. However, we have a rather ingenious little save system, which takes 30 seconds at the most to save the game, pack it up, and easily deploy. As you saw earlier, it's a really quick game to start with. And this allows you to just pack it up and get it out whenever you want it. So, how do you do it? You take, first of all, your character card. You take your satchel with any journal cards you may have, put it underneath. Then you take any inventory cards, any crafted items you have, and you take one of these special save cards with the dice printed on it. You turn the number that's currently its durability to the top and place it underneath the card, put it under the rest. Then you take any idea cards you have, these are items or ideas that haven't been crafted, put it under the rest. Then you take your action deck, I'll split this up just for the sake of the example. You put the action deck save card on the top, put it under the rest. Same thing with the discard pile. If I can just pick up the cards, there we go. Put it under. And then finally you take the card that you have saved the game on. If there's multiple players playing, the only requisite is that you are all on the same terrain card. Put that on the top, done. That's it. It is as simple as that. And that is the game saved. So, that was the Seventh Continent in a very quick explanation. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope that helps you with this campaign. Take care.